Welcome, everyone, to the second episode of the Great American Squabble. This is my co host, Unoptimized Fool, and I'm You
Hello.
Gotta Believe. We're here to bring you insight into modern day politics and world news, so get ready to refuel with the gas. Let's get started. Here's our first topic. Iran sending 300 plus drones and ballistic missiles at Israel. This is a clear escalation of tensions in the region and a direct threat to the safety and security of the Israeli people. The aggressive act not only violates international norms and laws, but also undermines the efforts of the international community to promote peace and stability in the Middle East. The Iranian regime's support for militant groups and its pursuit of ballistic missile technology pose a significant threat to the region and beyond. It's essential for the international community to hold Iran accountable for its actions and work towards de escalating tensions through diplomatic means. This includes imposing targeted sanctions and working with regional partners to address the root cause of conflict and instability. At the same time, it's crucial to recognize that the conflict between Israel and Iran is complex and multifactored, with historical grievances and competing interests at play. The international community must also engage in dialogue and negotiations to address these underlying issues and work towards a lasting peace, or it's just going to keep going back and forth.
Yeah. I mean, just you kind of said it all really there. It's kind of crazy to kind of see the retaliation. Like, obviously, I think 99% of all missiles and drones from Iran were intercepted, thankfully, from Iran. And obviously, Iran, is funding these militia groups, Hezbollah. You have the Houthis in Yemen, and obviously, this was all retaliation to when Israel struck the complexes in the Iranian diplomatic complex in Syria. And actually, I recently found this is actually a big no-no when it comes to nations. Usually, diplomatic areas are actually considered to be off limits. Obviously, it's not a written down rule like the Geneva Convention, but it's really like a gray zone no-no. So I can see why Iran was upset about this, but unfortunately, obviously they use ballistic missiles, which is actually the biggest provocation in all of this, which is kind of terrifying. And obviously, Israel is vowed to retaliate to this retaliation, and I agree that they should. But unfortunately, this might spark another war, and gas prices are probably going to go up, and a lot of people are going to die, and it might turn into a whole actual war, with boots on the ground. So it's kind of terrifying to see. So hopefully, it's all just small squabbles at this point.
Okay, and I do think it's also worth noting, although you're right, the ballistic missiles are scary.
Hmm.
They deliberately chose the targets they chose to minimize any impact to human lives, basically
Yeah.
civilian casualties, and so while scary, it's not necessarily something that other places like the United States aren't familiar with.
Yeah.
Recently, as recent as what, like 4 or 5 years ago.
I forget. What instant was that?
I don't remember exactly when it was, so I'm probably doing wrong with the date. But Trump was president, right?
Oh, when we killed Iranians like top general.
Well, no, we kind of just sent ballistic missiles
Oh, yeah.
against the
I'm not sure. I
country
would have to
as a
look into
warning
that.
type thing. Same thing
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
just did back to Israel, and so.
Hmm.
hmm But that's a
That the.
different topic for a different time, right?
True. True. True.
Well, let's get to our second one, which is second Republican backs effort to oust Speaker Mike Johnson from power. Fool, you want to start?
Yeah, this whole power struggle in the Republican Party is kind of like outside is kind of crazy. Obviously, you have the old Republican Party, like which is like you have Mike Johnson's probably considered to be old school Republican, and it's really because the new generation is really wanting to put America first in all stages. It's very nationalistic in nature, and they feel that the border is the biggest threat to American security, which it is. It's not, I wouldn't say it's the biggest one, but it's definitely up there for sure. I would agree with them in that aspect, but they think Johnson, the reason for this impeachment is because of his handling of various issues, including the foreign aid package for both Ukraine. So this Saturday, actually, Ukraine, if passed, which is looking to be passed, Ukraine, Israel, and islands in the Pacific, aka to counter China, will be getting trillions of dollars of aid, which Johnson has said we should push forward, and that now there's nothing on the border. Obviously, I think the border is a couple weeks away, but yeah, seeing this growing division, it's crazy, and it's gonna go into more division here soon.
Thank you, Fool.
Mhm.
Appreciate your take. I actually think it's kind of indicative of a larger problem within the Republican Party, namely its inability to effectively govern and its growing extremism. Move to remove Speaker Johnson suggests a party in disarray, unable to maintain cohesion and consensus on critical issues. This lack of unity is a significant obstacle to the effective governance of the House of Representatives and the country as a whole. And I think it's a clear sign that the Republican Party is struggling to find common ground and work together to address the pressing issues facing the nation right now. Um, the specific reasons for the effort to oust Speaker Johnson, like you were saying earlier, his handling of foreign aid, particularly aid to Ukraine, point to a growing divide within the party over foreign policy. The divide is not merely about policy preference, but about fundamental values and principles. It reflects a shift towards isolationism and a retreat from the United States' traditional role as a global leader and defender of
Mm.
democracy. The shift is not only concerning for the country's standing in the world, but also for the future of our international cooperation and security. Lastly, the involvement of Marjorie Taylor Greene in the effort to oust Speaker Johnson kind of highlights the growing influence of far right extreme voices within the
Mhm.
Republican Party, and that's fairly scary. But luckily, we saw what happened today.
Yeah. Yeah, just to kinda add to it, real quick is, like, the the new Republican, like, party that's trying to take over, this extremism is basically they wanna make sure that the homeland is secure before anyone else is secure. So, like, they think that the Biden administration and also the old Republican Party is trying to defend other countries more than America. They think there's an invasion at the south border currently. And we'll get into that actually a little bit here, actually, a little bit about the Homeland Security. So that's what they kind of view this as a betrayal of American values. That's their kind of perspective. I kind of looked into that.
Interesting. Will be nice to tie that into one of our later topics. Kari Lake suggests supporters strap on a Glock to be ready for 2024. Ooh, another one that I think you're going to be excited to talk about. But let me
Mhm.
go ahead and get started on this one.
Absolutely.
Uh, I think it's irresponsible, but also indicative of a dangerous trend in American politics. Statement contributes to an already polarized political climate, promoting an us versus them mentality. Encourages her supporters to view those with different political views as potential threats, which could lead to further division and hostility. Suggesting that people arm themselves as a way to prepare for a political event is kind of reckless, normalizes violence as a means of political expression, and could lead to dangerous and potentially deadly confrontations, which we've already seen in the past. The kind of rhetoric is particularly concerning given the recent rise in domestic terrorism and hate crimes. And I think the statement also raises questions about Lake's understanding of the Second Amendment and responsible gun ownership. Owning a firearm is a significant responsibility, and suggesting that people should strap a Glock on without any context
It's
or
just a funny
discussion of
statement.
safety is it's very irresponsible, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, like, obviously, like, strap on a Glock is, like, it's just kind of ridiculous. You almost wanna laugh when you hear that statement. It's like, "Strap on a Glock," you know? But it kinda has very, very serious undertones. Like, January 6th was obviously a very dark day in American history, and, I'm a firm believer, again, like, this is just kind of what it's just a feeling at this point where I feel like if Donald Trump isn't elected, the president in this upcoming election, if obviously they think the Trump party and the the people who support him think that there was a fraud election, and they'll obviously think it's a fraud election if he doesn't win again. So I'm afraid, in my personal belief, I think January 6th is going to look like an appetizer to what's going to happen, because change, especially American change, doesn't really come without violence. And they want change. They think Donald Trump is the messiah. They think he's going to, he's going to drain the swamp, right? And Kari Lake is right there with him, and one of his supporters. And I think they're going to drain the swamp by, physically taking the swamp over. And I'm more of afraid, actually. Um, to kind of end it, I'm actually more afraid of a Trump losing scenario than a Trump winning scenario, because a cage, when an animal's back is to the wall, it only has one way out, and it's the fight. So I'm actually more terrified of that. Just to kind of put it in perspective of like what kind of power is behind all that.
Yeah, I agree with you too. I do think what happened on January 6th is really kind of just really a battle in the war of what I'm saying is coming,
Mhm.
because people don't really know the divide in the country is that bad.
It's
And
terrible.
yeah, dude, I mean, without delving off too much, I went to a barber shop earlier in the week, and it was
I
owned
saw your
by
tweets.
pro-Trump supporters, and it was just insane. Like, it gave me a good haircut, which is great, but
Yeah.
I was it was insane. We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Um, but our next topic: why can't Americans see or hear what is going on inside the courtroom for the Trump trial? Fool.
Yeah, so like the whole Trump trial. I mean, this isn't about like the whole trial itself. It's more of just like the viewing of the American people. Because I know Trump raised this question, and also many others. And New York actually is one of the strictest, court, viewing and direct audio and video access. The trial is not permitted. Like the whole, like, think of like the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial, that was just like smeared all over the internet, live streamed from the floor of live arguments. That was like the polar opposite of what's happening now. And obviously that wasn't in New York. I forget what state it was, but you know, it's kind of a balance though. It's like, do you want to turn into a spectacle? Like you kind of honestly would say the Johnny Depp and the Amber Heard thing turned into this like almost reality TV. It was like an episode of the Kardashians. Everyone was watching it. Everyone I used to work with was talking about it all the time. We forgot the work sometimes how much we talked about it. So do we want to have all of this broadcasted live? Like, yeah, information is good, but then we kind of turn into reality TV, and we forget the actual real implications of what the election, what all this means. So I wish New York would kind of lighten it, maybe audio, or maybe give us some transcripts or something like that. But I feel like the whole like live streaming of the actual events currently is probably maybe a little bit too much reality TV ish.
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum with that. Personally, I think it's a significant concern. It's a historic trial marking the first criminal trial of a former president, and it's essential for the public to have access to those proceedings. The principle of public access to courtrooms is a cornerstone of American democracy, and the public has a right to know what is happening in the trial of a former president, especially since the charges are related to actions taken during his campaign and presidency.
Yeah.
Uh, that transparency is necessary for maintaining public trust in the judicial system and ensuring that justice is not only done, but seen to be done.
Mhm.
And secondly, the trial involves issues of significant public interest, including allegations of falsifying business records to cover up a sex scandal. And that's another topic again for a different time.
Yeah.
But given the gravity of those charges and their political implications on the American politics and public discourse, it's essential for Americans to have access to those arguments.
Yeah.
The absence of live coverage or public access to the courtroom proceedings could lead to misinformation or misunderstanding about the trial. And without direct access to the courtroom, the public must rely on basically what's reported from mainstream media. And you know how much everybody trusts mainstream media, right?
Yeah, big goose egg here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I agree with that. Like, I'm just, the only reason I say is that I'm worried because I watched the Johnny Depp trial, and like it just seemed like everyone had their mind made up about, like, mostly everyone was with Johnny Depp about the situation. Obviously, there was some Amber Heard um, supporters, but it really turned into obviously I don't think it influenced the court. I'm not worried about that. It's more of I'm worried it's just going to turn a very important court light system into a reality show, and everyone's just there to munch their popcorn with. And but I do agree with you. I think there needs to be some transparency because again, he was a president. He he holds power, and I think the American people have the right to see it. But there's that balance that I'm worried about. That's all.
All right. U.S. general says Russian army has grown by 15% since pre-Ukraine war. Wow. So the
Yikes.
growth of the Russian army is a concerning development that needs to be addressed. The increase in the size of the Russian military highlights the need for continued and expanded support for Ukraine. It includes not only the provision of military equipment and training, but also a commitment to long-term economic and diplomatic support. By strengthening Ukraine's military and economy, we can help deter Russia's aggression and prevent further destabilization in the country and region. Uh, the growth of the Russian army underscores the importance of international cooperation in addressing global security challenges. The United States should work closely with NATO, I believe, and its other allies to develop a coordinated response to Russian military expansion. Sorry, I'm all over the place right now, guys. It could include joint military exercises, intelligence sharing, and development of new defense technologies. I did tell Fool before the show I was feeling a little bit nervous, but we're here. We made it. It's our
We're
second
living.
episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very concerning to me that they have been growing in size when you've heard about the issues they faced economically, amongst other things, and uh, the soldiers have just been demoralized from what you hear. So the fact that they've grown that's insane to think about because there's already a very large army.
Yeah. Like I like to go into like I when the war first started, I knew that if Ukraine wasn't able to push back the war machine of Russia within the first year, Russia was going to have a big significant advantage because Russia throughout the history of Russia when it was the Soviet Union, the way they fought in the World War I, World War II, all the wars after that is it's a meat grinder. They just throw people at the problem. That's their war effort, and they're doing it now in Ukraine. Like they raised their conscription age from 27 to 30, right? So that's 3 more years. Quick math. And so frontline troops before this was 360,000 troops. Now it's 470,000 troops. Um and now Russians are making advances in most every front in Ukraine because of lack of funding from the United States and NATO partners too. Again, we're having war fatigue here in the Western states, and I knew this was going to happen. You know, war fatigue for partners in war is terrible, and Ukraine's gonna, if let's just say if it doesn't stop, Ukraine will be in Russia's hands probably in the next 3 years. Because again, Russia isn't known for quick wars. Russia is known for grinding wars of just basically keep going, going, going. And as you can see, even how many losses they've had, their army is now greater than it was pre-war. So I don't want this to happen, chat, but this is we got to be realistic here and say that this is we knew this was going to happen. We can't be surprised this is happening.
And to add on to that, I think just today I was reading that experts are saying that they expect Russia to win this war by the end of 2024. That's that's
Yeah.
soon. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
I mean,
already
I was
in
probably
April.
I was pretty very liberal with my 3-year plan or whatever I just said because I didn't want to sound like too crazy, right? But it's we need to put this funding out. Like obviously we have problems at our own border, but if Ukraine goes, who's next? And then eventually, oh, it's not our problem. Oh, Poland's gone. It's not our problem. Germany's gone. No problem. Oh, wait a minute. We just lost Hawaii. Uh-oh. And then now it's our problem. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying eventually a problem will seep into us because we are at the world stage here. Globalism.
All right. Our next topic. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas faces impeachment trial. Fool, you want to take
Well,
this one?
yeah, spoiler alert. The impeachment trial has been thrown out by the Senate, mostly because Democratic majority was voted apart along party lines. Um, my opinion about all this, I believe he should have been impeached. I think Homeland Security is currently faltering a lot on the border. Like, for example, I have some stats here, so I don't sound like a crazy person. 2017, we saw 310,000 recorded illegal entries to this country through the southern border. Again, that's recorded, could be higher. 2018, 404,000. 2019, 859,000 people. Then 2020 went down to 405,000 again. And then 2021, 1.9 million. 2022, 2.7 million. 2023, 3.2 million. And 2024 so far, 2 million. Already 2 million, and it's only April. We have a problem. All right. I understand these people want better lives for themselves. Maybe some of these people are from the cartels, but most of these people just want a better life. But we need to monitor this stuff. There's some people that are getting in that are bad people from the cartels. Not all of them. I'm not going to pull a Trump here, right? But we need to have better security. And I think our Homeland Security Secretary right now is failing at his job. And shame on the Democratic Party. Sorry, the Democrats, sorry, from the Senate for shooting this down so quick, because party lines don't matter when we're being, I want to say invaded, but we have a problem on the southern border.
You're not gonna like what I have to say.
Oh, that's okay.
The boogeyman. I think it's a politically motivated farce that distracts from real issues at hand. The allegations, and we talked that it didn't pass, but the allegations against him, particularly regarding his handling of the US Mexico border, are largely unfounded. And he's been implementing the policies of the Biden administration, which have been focused on addressing the root causes of migration and creating a more humane and orderly immigration system, which we do need. Our immigration system for legal immigration is ridiculous. I know people great, good people that it's taken them 10 years to become legal immigrants, and they should be proud, but it shouldn't take them that long.
True.
And moreover, the impeachment process is kind of being used as a tool by Republicans to score political points and undermine the Biden administration rather than addressing the complexities of the immigration policy. Focus should be on working together to find practical solutions to the border security and immigration reform, not on partisan stunts that do nothing to serve the American people. We knew most likely for a fact before this even happened that he wasn't going to get ousted.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Like, the whole, I think, like, obviously, I think this is the Republicans just trying to, like, put awareness, like, hey, we're upset about this. Obviously, they're very upset about this. It's their main talking point against Biden. And it's just a very complicated situation. Obviously, our legal migration is messed up, and that's why most of these crossings are just desperate families trying to get into our country. Um, but there's also, actually, sorry to go over, but do you know the number one um ethnicity that's currently coming over the border right now? It's Chinese.
Yo, you didn't let me answer, but I was going to say that. I've
Yeah,
seen that. I've read the
yeah,
stories.
yeah. It's Chinese, and I you just some and so a lot of some of these people only come in like a bunch of men, military age men, and it just raises a lot of questions. And it's if we don't like vet these people, obviously majority of them are going to be okay, but like there's a couple of bad actors in there that could cause problems, which we've seen before.
All right, give me a second there. I had to stop the timer.
Timer has a mind of its own.
Yep. Well, next topic. A January 6th defendant charged with assaulting officers ID'd with help of a forehead scar. This one I found to be very interesting. Fool?
Oh no, I went first with the Homeland Security, I believe.
Did you?
Yeah.
Man. Well, I can go. Let's see.
I could be wrong, but it's okay. You can go.
It's a testament to the modern technology in the pursuit of justice. This case underscores the importance of holding individuals accountable for their actions during the Capitol riot, a dark day in American history that saw the violent attack on our democratic institutions. Moreover, the fact that this particular defendant was identified with the help of a scar above his left eye. And did you know he was known as LeadPipeGuy?
Yeah, I
By
see. Like, yeah,
mm-hmm. By online sedition hunters, it's clear indication that the internet and social media can be very powerful tools in the fight against extremism and political violence. The internet's ability to crowdsource info and share it with law enforcement has played a crucial role in bringing those responsible for the January 6th insurrection to justice. The use of advanced tech and online resources in this case should serve as a warning, though, to those who seek to undermine our democracy, because anybody can be found nowadays. You commit a crime, don't expect to escape. It's not
yeah,
happening. You're eventually going to get caught. No matter how much time has passed or how clever they think they are, you're going to be found. You're going to be held accountable for your actions. Technology's too good and is getting better with the help of AI.
yeah. I mean, Big Brother. Like, I mean, all jokes aside, I mean, like, obviously, when you go to DC, especially in DC, the president lives wherever the president is. Just assume that in the next 5 mile radius, there's every camera is pointed at everyone, right? So obviously, with the Capitol, there was probably millions of cameras that they had to sort through, and it's crazy. Like, there was a 10-year-old mugshot they used of this man named Joshua Lee Atwood, the one we're talking about, and they matched the scars up from that. And it's crazy to think that, there's just a room, probably multiple rooms of people who work for the FBI or the CIA or whatever, that are just scouring through photos and traffic cameras and hallway cameras of this information, right? And it's Big Brother esque because obviously they're doing a good job, but like they're watching us. Like we have webcams. Some people tape their webcams over. Um, some people say they can listen to the Discord calls or whatever. So you're it's really a bad time in like technology wise to commit crimes. Obviously, don't commit crimes, chat. But um, obviously nowadays it's like there's no point in it because they're gonna know what you ate 5 days ago.
You're not wrong. Technology is seriously, seriously crazy. And just even cold cases nowadays are getting solved that,
Yeah,
they didn't have the technology for 30, 40 years ago. And they pull them back up and then they throw a bone in something, spit it out.
hmm
And they're like, oh, look, this guy is the guy who killed this person. You're like, bada
like
bing,
50
bada
years
boom.
later. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. It's
yeah,
seriously crazy. And soon these agents like you're talking about that are having to look at all these pictures and things, they're not even going to have to do it because computers will
yeah,
be able to do it, and
yeah.
it'll be, yeah, it'll be
That's
more
a scary
automated, it'll
thought.
be faster, it'll be people will get false flagged a lot, probably. It'll be scary
Oh yeah.
time in the United States.
I feel like yeah, I feel like automated justice is definitely like RoboCop in a sense, so which is
Oh man,
terrifying.
we got to do a special episode about things
Yeah.
like that. Hmm.
Right, yeah.
All right, let's see our next topic. OJ Simpson, football star turned celebrity murder defendant, dead at 76.
Yeah, he's dead. It's he had cancer. It's always sad to see cancer take life. Um, but you know, if you ask me if he did it, chat, again, he was found innocent, but he was a good football player, and I think this is our lightest conversation tonight that we'll have. But who am I to say that he did it? But I feel like he did it. But that's just me. Um, I'm not gonna be like I know there's some people like dancing on his grave. I think that's disrespectful. He's a human being, even though he was found innocent by the state of by um the law, so therefore he is technically innocent. So we have to treat him as an innocent person, and he was um I but yeah, it really just to kind of put it lightly, I think he did it, but you know, it is what it is. That's all I gotta say.
I loved it. I love that segment right there. Your response is great.
Thank you,
So
thank you.
I guess I gotta start out by saying O.J. Simpson. Who was he? Well, he was a Buffalo Bills running back who ran for 2,000 yards, and he was the first running back to do it. Probably the greatest Buffalo Bills running back of all time. But his life and legacy are emblematic of the deep seated racial tensions and inequalities in the United States. While Simpson was acquitted of the murders of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman, the trial and its aftermath revealed the stark divide between how black and white Americans perceive the criminal justice system, and the divide is still evident today, as evidenced by the disproportionate incarceration rates of black Americans and the ongoing struggle for racial injustice. Furthermore, Simpson's trial and the media circus surrounding it highlighted the power of celebrity and influence of wealth in the legal system. This alludes to our Trump trial earlier. The trial was a precursor to reality TV and social media driven culture that dominates today's news cycle, where sensationalism often trumps substance. Yeah, you like that? Trumps substance.
Ah, there it
This has
is.
contributed to a society that is increasingly polarized and disconnected from the realities of systemic racism and inequality. Simpson's life and death serve as a reminder of the importance of addressing these issues and working towards a more equitable and just society. Oh, and he definitely did it.
Yeah. But hey, it was a good football player though. Yeah. Yeah, he did it.
Boeing ignored whistleblowers' call for safety. The fact that whistleblowers were ignored and even threatened for raising legitimate concerns demonstrates a profit driven mindset that prioritizes the bottom line over the well being of both employees and customers. This incident is a clear example of corporate greed trumping the public good. Safety of thousands of passengers are at stake, and yet Boeing chose to ignore the warnings from its own employees. This kind of behavior is unacceptable and should be met with strong repercussions, including thorough investigations and potential legal action. Furthermore, this situation highlights the importance of strong regulatory oversight. The FAA and other regulatory bodies must step up and ensure that corporations like Boeing are held accountable for their actions. Without proper oversight, corporations like them may continue to prioritize profits over safety, putting countless lives at risk.
There we go. Yeah, so I mean, just to add on to this, I want everyone to know that Boeing killed 300 people because of a problem they knew in their planes, and they still released them. Um, I think there was 2 planes killed 300 plus people because of the basically there was a feature in the plane where if it detected a stall or something, it would put the nose down. Unfortunately, that device rendered the pilot's inputs null and killed a lot of people, and they knew about it. And now they hear about these whistleblowers talking about safeties and uh, Boeing pushing back about the 787 Dreamliner, then and the 777. It's terrifying. It's really making American, if everyone, if someone thinks about American air travel and the air industry, they think of it as like this ironclad war horse of just like, but now Boeing's really destroying that. I mean, even talking about Boeing's disastrous Dreamliner with I think it's called the Dreamliner for their space capsule. There's so many problems with it because of how many corners they've been cutting, and it's disastrous. I think they should be ashamed. And there was even that whistleblower that died recently, and a lot of people suspect foul play. Now, obviously, I can't say if it was or not, but they suspect um, there was a very suspicious death. Just say that what happened, and I think because that whistleblower basically started this whole talk about Boeing, and just talking about incidents. Like currently, 2023 was the highest incident rate of since 2015 at 137 incidents. And incidents can be minor to engines, like turning off or cracked panels or something, not like crashes, guys. So, um, It's not too high like you would think it would be, because obviously this is in the media likes to focus on something and make it look like it's a huge problem. But what happens when a 787 Dreamliner crashes? That's a lot of people, because of corporate greed, and I think Boeing should be ashamed of it, and they should be held accountable. They should be brought into court for 300 plus deaths that they still haven't answered for.
That's one of them, one of the rare ones, that and O.J. Simpson, that me and you agree on today.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Look at that. Look at us agreeing. We're
Boeing
doing it,
bringing
chat.
us together.
I know, right? Hatred.
Our final topic. Speaking of hatred, what about the hatred the Arizona lawmakers have for the women in the state? Arizona
Yeah.
lawmakers are poised to try again to repeal 1864 abortion ban
Yeah.
amid mounting pressure on Republicans.
It failed, obviously. Obviously, we know now it failed. So it's still in there. And again, this is a states' rights issue. I love when states start arguing this stuff, because I think the federal government should skedoodle from all that stuff. Again, we last week we talked about the federal ban on abortion, and I think it's good that the states are. I think this is good. I love seeing this happen, even though that you know it wasn't repealed, but it's good that the states are talking about this. And Arizona is a battleground state, and there's been a lot more democratic um, um, kind of uprisings in the state here recently that I've noticed. And also, I believe you told me about that Trump is starting to pull lower now in Arizona. I think you said Arizona, because of this uproot, which is surprising. Usually Arizona is pretty much neck and neck, so it's going to be interesting come this election run. But again, state my policies on abortion. I'm a man. I can't have a baby. It's that's a woman's discussion about, because obviously it's their body, their choice. Me and my wife would never do it, but we're not going to force anyone else to do it. Um, so obviously, they made a decision. Do I think it's right or wrong? Nope. I have no opinion because I'm a guy, and I think my opinion stops uh pretty fast. How about this?
And I think in the failure of the Arizona lawmakers to repeal that ban reflects a disturbing trend of ignoring the will of the people uh, and the evolving standards of medical care. The ban, which criminalizes abortion and threatens doctor with prison sentences, is a relic of the past that has no place in modern society. It's outright crazy. The overwhelming majority of Americans support access to safe and legal abortion, especially in cases of rape, incest, and when the woman's life is at risk. By refusing to repeal this draconian law, the Republicans in Arizona are demonstrating their willingness to put ideology ahead of the health and well being of their constituents. And the refusal to repeal the ban is a direct affront to the principles of personal liberty and bodily autonomy. Like you said, women should have the right to make their own decisions about their bodies and their health care without
Mhm,
interference from the government. It's
mhm,
worth noting, though, that this issue has become a political liability for Republicans. We were talking about Trump. Many GOP
mhm.
candidates in competitive races are scrambling to distance themselves from the court's decision to revive the ban, fearing it could cost them their seats in the upcoming elections. And like like you said, we talked about that last week with Trump kind of saying we
Yeah.
should leave it to the states and flip flopping a little bit on that issue, which I agree it should be. Mm, I don't know. I don't know. I think that should be a national thing. I think that one should be nationally legal, federally legal. That's since our last topic. I'll put something personal into it, chat, and everybody.
Mhm, mhm.
I think that the abortion ban is ridiculous, and women federally across the United States should have access to legal, safe abortions. Nobody's just having sex to have abortions. I'll tell you that right now. When somebody goes to make the decision to have an abortion, it's the worst decision they've ever had to make. And usually they make it because they know they can't provide for the kid that is going to be born. And the United States already has a bad issue with orphanage and just so many people in that system. And it sucks that you think about it. You think about it as killing a kid or killing an unborn child, but realistically, if somebody like that needs to make that decision and they can't take care of that kid, it's probably for the best at that point, because you don't want them to end up in a place where worse harm can happen. And a lot of the times, kids that don't grow up with parents like that and get put into bad situations, bad things do happen. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of add my thoughts to this too. Like, obviously, the only thing that I really don't understand about all of this is I know that there's some people in power, mostly on the Republican side, that say even with with being pregnant due to rape, incest, or even if the mom's health is at risk, they still won't do the abortion. I think that's the most ridiculous thing because um at that point, why the mother will die if having a baby. So you're just going to kill two living beings now, right? You're going to be, obviously there's a whole debate of when life begins, right? And I think, some of that again, a lot of Republicans, like for example, my neighbor, he votes Republican. He's a one issue person. Most voters are one issue voters. Um, he votes Republican because he's religious and he believes that abortion is wrong because life is life, right? And he votes Republican just because of that issue, right? And it has to do with religion too. I'm Catholic myself, guys, and again, I have my stance on abortion, so it's not like mostly aligning to the Catholic faith, but life is life, and I can see how that could also stop people from believing in that abortion should be legal, because of the faith aspect of it all too, and life is life argument. Again, I don't, I usually step back from that because, um, again, not a woman. Um, so yeah, the only thing I just don't mentally understand is the whole debate between when it's rape, incest, or the mother's health is basically at risk. They're gonna die. Why does it have to still be banned from that perspective? Because at that point, we're just being cruel as humans, So
Especially the death thing. It's like
yeah, it's like
at that point, you're literally choosing one death over the other. Why not the person
it's
that's already here keep their life? Like,
yeah, it's
I don't
like
understand how you choose that.
most of the
How do you come to that decision?
most of the
But that might
anti
be to religion. I don't know if that part of it might be religious.
well, because I can give you a perspective on the religious thing because we believe Catholics believe. A lot of people like to throw around the question of like, oh, if there's a God, why do these bad things happen? And there's a thing in the Bible. I forget the exact wording, so I'm not super religious, guys, obviously. Um, but it basically says even though that young people die in a terrible way or there's car accidents, there's holocausts everywhere, right? Genocides, it's because after this life there's more to it. There's like this is just kind of like a step in like this like a step on your journey. Like there's more after this. There's you go to heaven and you dive into that. So I think the religious way they look at it is okay, yeah, the mother's about to die, but that's what God wanted. That's how they're basically. Again, that sounds super bad, but it's like that's the plan, right? That's like you were supposed to bring this child into life. Maybe the child survives, but you die. Like that's your mission in life was to bring that child into the world. Your mission
This
is
will be
done.
in this will be another conversation, maybe even
No, for sure.
dedicated to a whole show or
I
something.
agree.
But
I think that this
I
is
wonder how
definitely a very
they.
deep conversation.
I wonder how then that person decides like God wants the child to live and not you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
it's
how does God what if God, and I'm going to sound terrible for saying this, right?
no, it's fine.
But what
Go
if
for it.
God wanted the kid to die so that you could survive? How
It's
do you know?
it's God's will. I don't know. Like that's what they say. Like obviously, I'm not saying that. It's God's
No, I know
will.
you not say. I know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
Chat, I'm not
asking
crazy. I swear. Uh,
I'm asking God right now, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
Who am
it's
I
it's
asking?
it's up to interpretation. I mean, like again, I could think we could make a whole show about religion and how it affects policies here in this country, and we could go on for I think hours for sure because it's such a deep conversation about it. Because again, I have perspective from the Catholic Church because I go to church every Sunday. Again, I'm not a fanatic, guys. I'm not like super into it. I go there for peace, inner peace. So, um, I mostly have actually opposing views of the church, but I still go. It's a nice hour of my week just to chill, in my opinion. But um, yeah, that's kind of like a little perspective on how that works if you guys aren't super religious out there and want to kind of get a perspective. Obviously, it's not supposed to change your mind. It's just kind of give you everyone needs a little dose of perspective every once in a while. So
Yeah, and that's why we do the show, so that people get perspective from both sides. And
yeah,
I'm glad that me and you can give the people what they want, right, people? Right,
exactly.
people?
And guys, guess what? We had 10 issues here, and I think we disagreed on 8 of them. And guess what? We don't hate each other. We're talking like adults. We're not trying to convince each other that we're wrong or right. We're just discussing as human beings, and I'm taking some of his points. I'm considering it. I'm hoping he's doing the same. And then, we can grow as a person if we still think that way. That's okay. We're not here to change minds. We're here to discuss because, again, I believe that when we stop talking, that's when we start fighting.
Speaking of that, by the way, fool, if you get a package in the mail later that it's a horse's head,
Yeah.
that wasn't from me.
That
That
was that
wasn't
was
from
sent
me. Yeah.
pre-speech, yeah.
Especially, yeah, exactly. That was sent pre-speech. But
Yeah.
no, I think that's probably all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
You have anything else?
No, just keep, again, get political, chat. I say this, I'll probably say this every week. Get political because everyone that's controlling your lives right now, policy wise, is making it about policies and politics. So you kind of have no other choice, guys. Sorry to say.
We're gonna make a political banner with the fool on it, just his face, his beautiful face, and yeah, he's gonna be doing that, and it's gonna say "Let's get political,"
And it's
and that's.
okay to laugh about it too, because
Mm,
it's like it's goofy too. We're not here to. It's a
mhm.
crazy time. Crazy time.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for catching the second episode of the Great American Squabble. Again, I want to thank my gracious co-host, Unoptimized Fool.
Yes, sir.
You gotta believe, and we appreciate you refueling with the gas. We will be back next week. Take care and enjoy your weekend.
Goodbye.